A city disappears after a massive explosion. Soon after, an epidemic called Rusty Wind appears, putting humanity at threat of extinction. A disease that starts gradually rusting people's bodies until they reach a fatal state. We follow the story of Bisco Akaboshi, a wanted criminal from the Mushroom Guardians clan, who's looking for a legendary mushroom that can save his master from a rusty wind death and the whole world. Our story begins with a monk attempting to cross the Gunma border when he comes upon a wanted poster with an 800,000 sol reward for Bisco Akaboshi. According to the border officer, Bisco is a wanted mushroom terrorist who transformed Mount Akagi into a mushroom mountain. He further states that mushroom keepers are known as mushroom terrorists, who has some strange power to grow mushrooms after firing his arrows. However, those same mushroom spores are known to be the reason why there's an epidemic in Japan known as the Rusty Wind, a disease that spreads among the body until it reaches a level that kills the contained person. The officer examines the monk's documents before letting him go, but notices the bow in his possession and reminds him that monks are not supposed to own weapons. Suspicious of it, the officer shoots the monk because he believes him to be a fake. But when the bandages on his wounds are scratched, it is shown to be the real Bisco Akaboshi, who reacts by shooting an arrow at the gate, setting off a mushroom explosion. He quickly calls out to his master and father figure, Jabi, telling him they have failed and must wake Akutagawa, a giant crab, to flee away and escape the armed hippos chasing them. One of the hippos manages to jump on them, but Bisco uses his crazy strength to throw the hippo away. After fleeing, they choose to spend the night somewhere outside of Imahama City's limits, where he examines Jabi's rust illness and administers his medication. But he notices that regular mushrooms are no longer sufficient to keep him alive for long. The only way he has to save his dear master is by intensifying their search for the Rust Eater, a legendary mushroom that can absorb all rust. But Jabi tells they should stop looking for it because they aren't sure if they can use it. They will need to synthesize the mushroom to use it, but despite Jabi's teaching efforts, Bisco can't synthesize anything at all. He may be the strongest mushroom keeper in terms of physique and skills, but he's a good for nothing when it comes to the rest. Bisco then starts hearing how his master is literally saying his last words to him, his regret in life. But Bisco just ignores him, telling him to shut up because they have passed through 10 borders just to prevent his death. Sick of his master's talk, Bisco goes outside to check on Akutagawa. He quickly notices a missile heading their way and shoots it down with his bow. Jabi hears the ruckus and sees an escargot fight coming while preparing to shoot. He warns Bisco to hide under Akutagawa and uses his body to protect his dear student from another incoming attack. Bisco, feeling angry and fearful of losing his father figure, shoots an arrow at the escargot, breaking its armor and taking it down. He takes Jabi with him inside Imahama City, where he seeks Milo, a famous doctor, to cure his master. He barges into his clinic and threatens Milo, who is also known as Panda due to his black eye, to save his master. Otherwise, he will be dead meat. Milo says it's forbidden to synthesize medicine without permission. But Bisco quickly notices his surroundings and mentions that he was already doing it before. Furthermore, his medicine will have no effect because it misses a key ingredient. He then gives him a lurker mushroom, mentioning it's the best ingredient to use on his wanted medicine. He once again asks him to create a medicine, but Milo notices Jabi's injuries and says he needs to operate the old man. Meanwhile, some men in masks outside the clinic ask Bisco to surrender or they will kill him. But he points out he has the most important doctor in town as a hostage. But the men don't care and start opening fire. He then grabs Jabi and Milo and decides to run away, while exploding the whole clinic with his mushrooms. They hide in the sewers, where Milo is ordered to operate Jabi, while Bisco decides to go outside and deal with the men chasing him. But Milo stops him, stating that he's injured and needs to be treated first. After being bandaged, Bisco goes outside and quickly deals with the masked men. He takes one of their masks and finds a little girl named Tyrol, who starts begging to be spared, claiming that he's being hunted by the city governor. However, before she can reveal anything else, a crazy woman appears riding a bike and attacks him with her sword, pushing him against the wall. He then shoots an arrow at her, piercing her sword. She introduces herself, Pawu, the one who will capture him. He notices that her rust level is critically high, and states that if they continues to fight, then she will soon die. But she starts blaming his mushrooms for being the reason the rust is spreading all over Japan. He reveals that those mushrooms grow in size while cleansing the rust. She still doesn't believe him and asks the dumb question, why doesn't he use his power to save Japan then? Well, because annoying people like her get in his way. Despite his claims, Pawu will not let him go. He starts noticing similarities between her and Milo and declares that he has discovered a fantastic doctor. Pau becomes enraged and asks if he did anything to Milo. She then attacks him, but he used the time they were talking to grow mushrooms on her pole, causing her to lose her weapon, and uses a final arrow to knock her out. He takes her to Milo and Jabby, but is startled to see that Jabby is already fine and moving. His master says that he is alive thanks to Milo's medical skills. Milo then notices Pau and explains that she is his older sister, and he offers her some of the medicine he gave Jabby to make her feel better. Jabby warns them that if they don't move, they won't be able to escape, and promises Bisco that he will distract the enemy while they flee. Given the fact that he is injured and unable to travel, Bisco disagrees and adds that even if he finds the Rust Eater, he will still require someone to synthesize the medicine. Jabby then glances at Milo. He first refuses, but after seeing Milo's willingness to risk everything to save his sister, he agrees. While Jabby attempts to distract the Imahama watch, Bisco and Milo walk towards the north gate, where he launches them and jumps over the walls using a mushroom. After successfully escaping the city, they travel on foot to seek the Rust Eater. Milo says that he feels Pau has 3 months remaining, while Jabby has just 1. Even if the Rust Eater is in Akita, the nearest possible location, they will not be able to obtain it and return in time by walking. Bisco says he has a plan and that they can take a shortcut through the mines of the Ashio Boncoal Mountains. But Milo starts noticing they're heading in the opposite direction of their goal. Bisco then explains they need their third member. He whistles, and Akutagawa emerges from the dirt. Bisco says that it's his brother, a steel crab. Bisco adds that the mining creatures will not attack anything they can't eat, and that Akutagawa can cross any terrain. They arrive at the Nikko War Memorial and decide to spend the night there. As they enter the premises, they notice Tyrol. Bisco recalls meeting her at Imahama, but when Tyrol turns, she appears to be choked. Milo assists her in vomiting but notices something in her stomach. He then kisses Tyrol and pulls out a balloon worm. Milo reveals that the worm is being used by the governor to prevent slaves from escaping, being also the same governor who's spreading the lies about mushroom keepers being the cause of the epidemic, as he only aims to profit from people who buy his medicine. Tyrol is startled that the governor of Imahama has been using them on his special soldiers, but it explains why they were always taking a particular medicine. Later, Bisco and Tyrol wake up in the middle of the night due to some strange vibrations. Outside, Milo and Akutagawa are fleeing while being pursued by a huge crab carrying the Nikko War Memorial. Bisco informs Milo that the main body of the animal is a coal-eating mantis shrimp that consumes bone coal, and that the bone coal Tyrol tossed away awakened it up. Bisco is concerned that they may collide with the mines and trigger an explosion, preventing them from utilizing the mine train. But at the same time, he can't do anything because Tyrol is clinging to him. Therefore, he instructs Milo to use Akutagawa's pincers and split the crab's brow. Milo follows his instructions and cracks the animal's shell on the skull. Bisco then leaps in and fires an arrow, causing a swarm of mushrooms to sprout and halt the beast. In the end, Bisco is relieved that the mines are safe, but suddenly, one of the animals fires a gun and blows out the mines, forcing them to follow another path. They all decide to resume their rest for the night, but Bisco awakens the next morning to Milo's screaming. Tyrol stole their money, but she did leave her food behind. That means she literally forced them to buy it. Nevertheless, they continue their quest and come upon a watermelon while crossing a dried-up sea. Bisco rushes to retrieve it, but a child beats him to it. Bisco shouts at the child and begins chasing after him until he captures him. But suddenly, a few other armed kids appear and shoot at them. They reach a city filled with hungry and armed kids who will do anything for food or money. Nuts, the kids' leader, believes Bisco and Milo are kidnappers sent by Kurikawa, the governor of Imahama. Bisco says that they are on their way to Akita, but Nuts doubts that anybody traveling north would traverse through the dried-up area, where water and food are scarce. Bisco pulls out his 500 IQ card and presents a wanted poster of himself promising an 800,000 sol reward if they deliver him alive to Imahama. The youngsters then capture Bisco and Milo and transport them to their hometown until they report to the authorities. Bisco thinks their Tetsujin town is unusual, and they explain that it was built from Tetsujin who landed there after the explosion. Bisco notices a harpoon on the wall and asks about it. Nuts tells that it belonged to his father, who was head of the community but died after standing up to Imahama. Nuts heads down, leaving Kusuk to care after Bisco. Bisco recognizes the train route map and how he utilized an underground tunnel as Kusuk is looking at a map. Kusuk is excited and tells that a mushroom keeper saved his life when he was young. and he offers the map to Bisco because his father always wanted to thank the mushroom keepers. Then Kusuk departs, asking Bisco to be a good puppy and stay put. However, the city is suddenly attacked by blowfish because the weather is unusual, making them active. Furthermore, food is limited, so their best option is to feed on humans. The children begin to battle the fish but are helpless. Bisco leaps on one of them as it captures Kusuk and breaks it in half with the harpoon. Nuts asks how he escaped, and Bisco reveals that the shackles and bars were corroded and no issue for him. He then tells Kusuk that the map he gave him is faulty because it lacks furigana. This only proves one thing: Bisco can't read. Bisco then offers him a deal. He will shoot one arrow for every station he can correctly identify from the map in order from top to bottom. Kusuk then begins naming the stations, while Bisco shoots the fish, making mushrooms grow and destroying them. Bisco then leaps back to his feet and summons Akutagawa and Milo, claiming they will head to their next location. They soon arrive at Shimabuki, a snow-covered area, but as natural, it's cold as hell, forcing him to locate a trading camp to seek shelter and warm up. Bisco discovers a clump of snow with something coming out of it, and when he pulls it, they discover Tyrol, who is almost dead from hypothermia. They set up a tent for Tyrol to recover, and she later explains that she repaired a chopper and was on her way to Miyagi, but it was shot down by anti-aircraft artillery. Bisco explains it's karma. She did bad things all her life, therefore she will get bad things in return. Bisco adds that they must move quickly and are on their way to the Shirakawa Line subway. Milo then finds a merchant's camp and leads them there. Since Bisco can't comprehend what the dealers are saying, Milo is the one who must bargain. They strike a nice deal on a dried gigantic eel and obtain some warm gear as well as a book. They continue on their way and arrive at Kitsunezaka Station, where they discover a train that appears to be able to function as they investigate the subway. But there's a problem. It requires money to work. Not just any money, it needs the old Japanese currency. Tyrol reveals that she used to be a mechanic and plans to fix the train, making it work without using any money. While they wait, Milo inquires about Jabi, to which Bisco responds that he is both his mentor and his father figure. They start explaining their motives on how Bisco wants to save Jabi, and Milo wants to save his cutie sister. And they basically start their brotherhood to save their loved ones. Tyrol then joins them, claiming she overheard everything. She asks how Milo can risk his life to save someone else. Milo responds because he loves his sister, something she doesn't know of. They go through the field guides they received from the traders, and wonder what type of book it is because it has drawings of various animals. Bisco notices the artistic technique and claims it was done by a mushroom keeper. He further explains that the book should mention several types of mushrooms and which kind of animals generate each mushroom. Milo confirms it and looks for the page that mentions the rust eater. He then discovers that it grows from the pipe snake, also known as the tube worm, an animal that can fly and frequently consumes huge prey, such as helicopters and fighter planes. As the train departs, Milo wonders how they would capture a pipe snake, but they are attacked by a big bunch of oil squads. Bisco and Milo battle them, but the group is too large for them to overcome. He then fires an arrow ahead of the train and instructs Milo not to breathe as the silver acid forces the oil squids to fall off the train, but they're captured by the leader oil squid. In order to free Milo, Bisco uses his arrows to shoot the oil squid's mouth, making mushrooms grow out of it. Milo then launches an arrow at it with Bisco's assistance, triggering an explosion and defeating the oil squid. They manage to emerge from the tunnel, reaching the Weeping Child ravine. Milo spots some mushrooms in blue smoke as he looks down. Bisco reveals that those mushrooms are what they've been looking for, the rust eater. The oil squid is then suddenly grabbed by a huge bird, but the bird is devoured by a massive pipe snake. Bisco decides to capture it, but Paolo appears on her bike, claiming she will bring divine punishment to him.
And I'm pretty sure that you are.